Apparently, I should not have gone to Chipotle for lunch.
Yeah.
I will leave it at that. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Wednesday Night Gentlemen Multimedia Empire official podcast. You're listening to episode number 32. On this show, we like to talk about comic books, movies, TV shows, video games, and everyone's favorite political discourse. I am your host, Tactic Angel, and with me is MidgetRadio, my murderous socialist friend.
Hello.
Hello, MidgetRadio. How are you doing?
Doing well, Tactic Angel. It's nice to hear your voice again.
It's nice to hear you, buddy. It's nice to be heard. It's nice to be back from the fatherland.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Though Germany is very pretty. Very pretty.
I believe it. I was only there for one day, though. Not even the whole day. But yeah. It was nice.
I was there for a couple. Spent some time in Nuremberg and Regensburg. Cool. And Nassau. It was pretty neat. I bought a couple of steins. I am drinking out of a German stein right now.
Nice.
Though I am drinking a very local beer. I'm drinking Cross of Gold.
Okay.
Which
I was kind of hoping for
honestly,
a Budweiser.
I'm not sure I should be drinking
or like
this.
A Busch.
It's brewed in Chicago. Cross of Gold Democratic Party wanting to include silver too, I think, right?
I have no idea. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll just say that's right.
Okay, I like it.
Do you have a drink?
Mm-hmm.
Does that drink have history?
It has 18 years of history, at least. The Glenlivet.
My guess is that history is mostly sitting in a barrel.
Yep.
Sitting in a barrel. That's good. It's
good
stuff.
Witnessed a lot. Man, like half of my life. That's weird. That's sad. What an old fuck. What a decrepit old bastard.
So imagine this. The drinking age in Germany is 16. If you were drinking 18-year Glenlivet, you would be drinking the fruits of someone's labor who labored before you were even born.
That's amazing. Good for Germany. Good for the German people.
Good for Germany. Yeah. I like this. I like this. It's very Oktoberfesty mug. It's white and blue.
I assume they have Oktoberfest
nice.
in October, right? Like
No. Well, so as everyone knows, Oktoberfest ends the first weekend in October, and it's the 3 weeks before that.
I didn't know that.
So actually, it should just be kicking off, and it'll go through next week and into the week after that.
Well, that's exciting.
And then it will be over. Probably like the 3rd or 4th. I don't remember what days or what. We only keep track of Wednesdays here.
That's true.
All right, we need to get on from whatever the hell we're doing. We have 2 subjects today. We have 2. The first is the Punisher, and the second is the Orville. Both fun, non-politicky things.
True.
That's a word.
Yeah. Only one of them takes place in space.
Unless they get really out there.
There is a Space Punisher comics anyway.
Well, he's killed just about everybody.
That's true. Maybe season 2.
So pretty much all comic books have their worth basically equal to their weight in newsprint. Sometimes the number 1 of a series is worth a little bit more, and then every so often you see these major spikes in prices for comic books right around number 129. The so-called Amazing Spider-Man had just such a thing happen when a man in black with a white skull emblazoned across his chest did something a little different for a Spider-Man villain. He didn't rob a bank. Instead, he tried to kill Spider-Man. Sadly, he was unsuccessful, but as a result, the Punisher was born. He's frequently in and out of print, and the Punisher, nevertheless, has enjoyed a pretty steady undercurrent of support ever since, resulting in a 1989 movie starring Dolph Lundgren as an almost unrecognizable Frank Castle.
Yeah.
2004 movie starring Tom Jane, and finally a fairly embarrassing 2008 movie starring Ray Stevenson. Still, none of these things managed to kill the Punisher in the hearts and minds of the viewers, and he returned this time on the small screen in Netflix Daredevil Season 2, this time portrayed by Jon Bernthal, who absolutely killed it, and several other people along the way.
True.
I assume that you agree with all the things that I just said.
Absolutely, I do.
Now we're getting a Punisher TV show, and I guess this is kind of like an additional TV show, because originally we were just going to get the 4 plus the Defenders.
Yep.
And I guess if some of those aren't any good, they'll give us bonus prizes, and this is that.
Yeah.
The Punisher bonus prize.
True.
So there was a recent trailer. It's about 2.5 minutes long. We will link it in the description if you haven't seen it.
Oh shit, we will? Okay.
We definitely promise to do that.
That sounds like a unilateral decision to me, but okay. I'll get on board.
You want to argue with me?
I'm not. No, that would be unprofessional. So.
Well, both of us have already watched it. Midget Radio, what did you think of this trailer?
It looks good, I guess. It looks good. I like the Metallica. And I like all of the bullets. So it looks like the Punisher. I have high hopes for it. So yeah, I mean, it looks solid. Looks totally solid.
I have no reservations about my enjoyment of this trailer. Some of it doesn't make a ton of sense, but it's a trailer. It's cut together, whatever.
Yeah.
How does turning out the lights turn off the flashlight on the underside of a gun? Who cares? Because
that's right. That's right.
And you're like, yes, yes.
So I guess like it's weird. It was hard to tell from the trailer, but it sounds like it's the Punisher versus the CIA, maybe the FBI, maybe the entire like American law enforcement. I don't know.
As we kind of learned at the end of or during Daredevil season 2, he was working for that general, right? Who lost an arm.
Yes.
And he was corrupt.
Yeah.
I guess. So my guess is that it will have something to do with a larger conspiracy.
Yeah, probably
around that.
Yeah.
I think if he is just straight up killing CIA and FBI and other things like that, the people will probably not love it so much.
Yeah.
For good
it kind of
reason.
Yeah, I think that's the only. I guess that's if there's any reservation. It's just that I don't know really what to expect. I mean, Jon Bernthal's Punisher it was such a strong presence in season 2 of Daredevil that I mean, there's just no doubt in my mind that he's going to be able to carry this show rather easily. I don't know what to expect from I guess the surrounding characters, or whether we have a central villain, or if it's just kind of this weird mysterious conspiracy or whatever. So yeah, I just don't know what to expect, but I'm definitely excited for whatever we're gonna get whenever it comes out this year, I guess.
Yeah, I was pretty sure that they hinted it was gonna be November like a year ago.
Yeah.
And I would still guess November.
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
I hope it comes out on Black Friday. To be completely honest.
Yeah.
it would be a good day for it.
Okay. Yeah, one man murdering millions of people. That's
Black Friday. It would give us guys something to do other than watch football.
True. I have all the televisions I need now, I think. So, yeah. No more reason.
And well, yeah. You don't have to deal with those fucking people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stay in, watch The Punisher.
Yeah. I'm good.
That would be my personal hope. I don't think it's gonna happen.
I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I'm totally excited for it. The use of Metallica was pretty perfect. So that's really all I have to say about it, though.
Yeah. Well, I think the Metallica kind of has that anti-war thing. The song that they're using is One.
Yeah.
Right?
Is it? Is that the name? Is it? Yeah.
It is One.
I don't remember the name of it.
Which is kind of an anti-war song. It's about a guy who's been blown apart. I think in World War I, actually. But so he's praying for death in a way, but like I like this.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say is that cutting around the first cut in the music it kind of tweaked me a little, because it was like, no,
Like, it's a little jarring.
you're not through that passage yet, and now we're whatever. But it's so good going from the acoustic and him like thinking of his family, and then nope.
Yeah.
Got one condition: kill them all.
Can live with that. Yeah.
I had a feeling that you would be pretty on board for this.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Particularly the way that they cut together. Tell me what you know about my family. Nothing. Fair enough.
Works.
Done. At that moment, I was like, Midget Radio likes Frank Castle because Frank Castle gets shit done.
Yeah. He's a fucking decision maker. So.
Oh, man. Both enthused. This is only a 2-minute trailer. We're not going to talk about it for an hour. Do you have anything else you want to add?
No. I'm excited for it. Yeah, I'm excited for it. It's day one watch for sure.
Oh yeah. I have no doubt that whenever it does come out, I will have burnt through the whole thing before we record.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, it turns out that like the Iron Fist people wrote it, and then and who knows?
Oh God, yeah. I hope not.
It could, unless it's like super meta, and it's like I have to kill all of the Hand so that we don't have to see Danny Rand anymore.
I could live with that too. Yeah.
People don't like you.
God,
so I killed all your enemies.
My God, it's true.
Then he can go off to be a CEO or a barista or whatever he wants to do.
Either one, it doesn't matter. He's got lots of options.
All right. Subject over.
Excellent.
All right. On May 13th, 2005, a rather insulting TV episode aired entitled These Are the Voyages. It starred Jonathan Frakes as Riker and Marina Sirtis as herself, role-playing as a Starfleet officer. It was a sad way for an admittedly not the best TV Trek show to go out, but it also marked the beginning of a 12-year and counting departure of Star Trek from the air. Flash forward to right about today, and the Star Trek movie franchise is sort of still going, maybe, though it is not widely loved by Trekkies. And the yet-to-be-aired Star Trek Discovery has a lot of fans, let's say, worried. then out of nowhere, there's a trailer for a show called The Orville, a show from the creator of The Family Guy, Ted, and A Million Ways to Die in the West, Seth MacFarlane. I think we were all a little bit surprised when the two trailers dropped like boom, boom.
Absolutely.
I think Fox was probably holding on to it for somebody to be like, new Star Trek Discovery trailer. And they're like, oh yeah? Boom.
Yeah.
Compare. Have fun, internet. So the Orville, it's been on for about 3 weeks because there's 3 episodes out there, right?
Yep. True.
We have seen all 3 of them.
We have.
All right. Midget Radio, first impressions. I suppose we should probably say we'll just give a general review like we usually do, and then we'll have a spoiler section, even though it's a little bit weird for us to have a spoiler section on something like this.
Ongoing TV show for sure. But yeah.
I guess we kind of do it. But the TV shows we have been reviewing have been like one and dones. Go.
This is hard. I'm not sure what to say. So I'm going to give a very like cursory sort of impression of this show. So I guess like watching sort of the opening theme, and certainly like the introductory parts of each episode, seeing ships docked or flying around, the sort of orchestral score, all of that stuff, the colored uniforms, all of those things, like fills me with a sense of joy, that because it reminds me, and it is so clearly derivative of Star Trek. That stuff is the sense of, I guess, like joy, maybe, of wonder, is present in those elements of the show. Past that, and particularly with episode 3, I feel like this show really misses the mark on what Star Trek is supposed to be. It certainly misses what I find so appealing in past iterations of Star Trek. So much so that I wonder if CBS and Paramount should be more aggressive in their approach to fan productions of Star Trek properties. That's kind of where I'm at right now.
Are you saying you want CBS to sue Fox because of the Orville?
I'm saying if they sued Fox, I wouldn't have a problem with it. And it's probably a better target than something like Axanar.
It's probably a better target than specifically your own fans.
Yeah. But Seth MacFarlane is undoubtedly a fan of Star Trek. Undoubtedly. I just think he goes about it in a way that, and it's really, really with episode 3, I think he goes about it in a way that is almost insulting, if not kind of sacrilegious. So I think you can figure out where I'm going to land when we get to the star rating system on this, but
okay,
that's my initial impression.
My initial impressions are, first of all, I really do like all the things that you said about the opening. I actually thought that it had a really impressively attractive presentation. Mm-hmm. Like the ships, whatever they're doing with the CG and the compositing to get the city shots, like that looks really good. Like It doesn't look real. It just looks very pretty.
Yeah.
The ship I thought at first was kind of weird, but it actually is kind of growing on me.
You know, honestly, it kind of reminds me of the dolphin from Elite Dangerous a little bit. Just a little bit.
Maybe like the nose of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Not the
but
tail.
The dolphin doesn't have. Well, I guess the dolphin has like a spoiler, doesn't it?
It does have a spoiler.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It looks like a giant space bus.
Yeah.
The dolphin, but like this looks a little bit. This looks a little bit more like they were trying not to get sued, but also trying to definitely let you know that this is not Star Trek.
Oh yeah.
Star Trek.
Yeah.
And in a way, it's the same sort of thing that I think the Galaxy Quest people did, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
As far as my first impressions, I think probably pretty oppositely to you.
Really? Okay.
But we will get more into this after we do stars. I think that like there are a couple kinds of comedy in this that are going in completely different directions.
Yeah.
There's what I will call situational comedy, which is that somebody just says something that's funny in context that you could actually see someone maybe saying.
Okay.
And then there's like, I am the creator of The Family Guy.
Yeah.
It is time for a fart joke or something like that.
Yeah.
And then like, I really like the former and the latter usually doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
But they're great lines. And I have, laughed quite a bit at several of them.
Okay.
It's just some of the things that I do like about this is something will happen and then one character turns to another and basically probably says what's on 30 or 40% of everybody's mind. And it's just like, you know that on the Enterprise that if Wesley Crusher was there and he had somebody opposite him that wasn't Data.
Yeah.
Though Data could be fun for humor too.
That's true.
He would maybe turn to that person and be like, can you believe that? Whatever. And it would just be funny. It would just be funny.
Yeah.
So there's part of me that kind of gets like this. The Orville has the capacity to be that irreverent. Well, we're trying to be the goody space police, UN, whatever.
Yeah.
But then like people are still humans.
Yeah.
They still have some judgments and some whatever. You don't want to say discrimination in the sense that they think less of people, but they clearly can see things and think, well, that doesn't seem ordinary to me.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get the sense that with Star Trek, it's a little bit too, I don't understand how people walk around and like observe the world, know what's a threat, know what's normal, what's not normal, when everybody so eagerly accepts everything as normal and cultural differences. It's just a little weird. A little weird.
Okay.
Well, you could end up in dangerous situations where you weren't taking something as seriously as you should have, and whatever. I don't want to get too into it, but
okay.
But there are times where you're watching Star Trek and it's just like, well, that seems really fucking abnormal to me. And
okay.
And Picard or Kirk is just like, whatevs. Just like, okay, fine. Whatever. Come on, get to the part where they all talk.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
All right, so we will rate this. We will rate this now because I want to argue with you.
Me too. I'm fucking ready.
Midget Radio, first 3 episodes, first impression sort of thing of the Orville, which will run for at least 7 seasons.
Oh, God.
What are your thoughts?
I highly doubt that.
I doubt it too.
But I'm gonna go kind of I just to kind of give an overall impression of my reaction to this show. After the first episode, I was at about 3, maybe 3.5. After episode 3, I'm at 2, and I'm sticking at 2.
All right. I would say I didn't think that the first episode was particularly good, but
Yeah, thought it was fine.
The first episode of Treks are usually not very good.
The first episode of Treks are usually bad. They're usually some of the worst. Honestly, in my opinion, Jesus Christ, God, especially DS9, my favorite series. I think the first episode of that is probably the worst first episode of Trek.
I don't know. You look at Encounter at Farpoint, and somebody try to make sense.
Jennifer on the beach. Me and Jennifer on the beach. Oh, the sand is hot. Like, it is so fucking painful. Jesus Christ.
I'm gonna go back and watch it. We can discuss it on some Trek related show. So like, they're just trying to get the crew together.
Right. Yeah.
It works. It feels a little rushed in terms of the plot, because it's only an hour long, and they have to both get the captain on the ship and then also go do a mission, and then also bad guys show up.
Right.
And I actually thought the krill looked pretty good.
Yeah, the krill look all right. Yeah.
Pretty. I think that there was the most poo-poo humor in that one.
Yeah, true.
So I probably started at a 2.5. And then I think by this point, I'm after the third episode, I think I am in the 3.5 area.
Jesus Christ. I don't see how that's possible.
Well, we're going to talk about that.
Okay.
Because, boom, spoilers, no holds barred. Here we go.
Okay.
Midget Radio has a beef.
I definitely have a beef. I absolutely have a beef with this episode, but and it really is episode 3. There's a little bit of this in episode 2, but episode 3, it is wall to wall problematic. And here's my chief issue with this show. Star Trek has never been about elitists in space. It's not a show about why the Federation is so superior to every other fucking culture in the entire goddamn galaxy. That's not the that's not the mission of the ship. That's not what they're out there to do, to seek out and judge new worlds and new civilizations. They're there to just explore. I think the Orville is here to tell us what is right, and is going out on these missions to tell other cultures what they're doing wrong, and why everything they do is wrong, and why the Union, I don't know why you would pick that fucking word to describe. It just seems, man, that seems problematic in itself. But
what's wrong with the Union? That's what we're called.
We're the United States of America.
Yeah, but the Union is also, particularly around the Civil War was.
That's true. In the Civil War.
And you still hear people
prior to the Civil
Union
War. I mean, you didn't have. Like, I'm actually kind of surprised that you maybe don't see sort of the parallels, particularly in episode 3.
Explain it to me.
That we have a massive governmental organization intervening on the rights of individuals and telling those individuals who are a part of a different culture what is right and what is wrong. And it is surprising to me that a show that advocates that sort of approach as episode 3 of the Orville to me kind of clearly does, that you would like give that 3 stars at all. even more so. I'm just a little surprised. I figured episode 3 you would be kind of like, hey, wait a minute, man.
What, the whole concept of a trial?
The whole concept of so the premise of the episode is there's apparently and this is it's so badly written that it's hard to even understand the reasoning behind so much of what the characters do in this particular episode, because the premise is that there is a race of people that is a single gender. They're all one gender. From episode 1 to 3, that's our understanding of this particular race in question. So somehow, and I don't know how, but somehow they reproduce being just one gender. And the male lays an egg, and there's a lot of stupid humor around that. And that when this particular male lays this egg, he somehow gives birth to a female. So there's part of me that's like, well, Jesus Christ, that seems like impossible, and it's a little stupid. I mean, it just seems like, of course, this is just here to generate some drama that like a race of people that is entirely single gender. We have the only one who's ever given birth to a fucking female before. And then we find out, I guess, that other females have been born, but it's really hard to understand how many females have been born. But anyway, the premise is the kid's born a female, the parents want to change it over to a male gender, and that's a big fucking problem for every fucking person on this show. So much so that the captain and the entire crew of the Orville has a say in it. I guess apparently the Union has a say in it as well, as does the government of the species that this that this child was born to. So yeah, you have massive outside external entities, all governmental in nature, intervening in the decision making of a fucking parent. And I don't know, Tactic Angel gives that 3.5 stars. I thought you were a fucking libertarian. I just don't understand. Like, there's no consideration for what the rights of the parents are in that instance. There's no consideration really for cultural differences. There's zero consideration for, well, what the fuck is the birth rate for females on this particular planet? Because I can't tell anymore. Now it seems like apparently maybe it's a common thing and they just do gender reassignment, but still somehow as a species, they still kind of like, I don't understand how they reproduce past that. And the reason I don't understand any of that, I'm going to argue, is because the episode's really badly written. It's really badly written. And it's antithetical, I think, to Trek, because this is a show that was designed. This episode was designed to tell us all that women are good, that there's nothing wrong with being a fucking woman. That's what this episode, I think, was supposed to tell us, and that's what they wrote too. And they didn't give a shit about actually trying to develop the world or the environment that this issue arose out of. That's where I'm at. I just think it's horrendously written episode. And it's clear to me that the writers of the Orville just don't have the chops to do what the best Star Trek episodes were able to do.
So this is episode 3.
Yeah.
And of season 1, and we can go back to watch TNG season 1.
Sure, fine.
I would say, all in all, I don't understand, even as you, because you weren't specific, but like, I don't understand what the issue is, because there are races, not races, there's species on Earth that can change their gender. There are single sexed organisms on Earth,
Mm-hmm.
and they reproduce.
Yeah, there is
Usually.
like asexual reproduction. I don't understand if that's, but there is asexual reproduction, but there's still a 2-parent unit in this society. So like, do you think that the child is a product of those 2 characters, or if the one character, the Orville, whatever, if he asexually laid that egg and produced that kid? My impression was no. No, they somehow came together and somehow produced this egg, and for some reason, it was the Orville guy who actually produced the egg. None of that makes sense to me. I don't understand how any of that works.
Well, they didn't show him getting it on. But
no, but is that what happened? I don't even know if that's what happened. If that's what happened, how is it asexual reproduction at that point?
I don't understand.
And how do you decide who lays the egg, right? You would assume they both have the capability of laying the egg since they're both the same gender. I don't understand any of that. And it makes a difference when you start wondering, well, if that's true, then are there females in the first place? Well, I guess there are, because the show has just introduced them. And if so, to what degree are they actually born? What's the percentage of people giving birth to this female gender that then needs this gender reassigned? How often does that fucking happen? There's no way to know that.
I can't think of a single Star Trek episode that deals with the demographics of any decision like that in that kind of detail, because
here's why.
It's
but
not
that's
that important.
It is important in the context of this episode, though. It is important in the context of this episode, and when it comes to weighing the decision as to whether or not, one, the parents should individually have the right to just reassign the kid's gender. That's an issue by itself. And then 2, separate from that, whether it is ethically okay to reassign the gender, to intervene in what nature has produced in the first place. There are a couple of issues going on in this particular episode, and because they don't fucking address those kind of basics, what is the birth rate, how do they all of that kind of stuff, it's almost impossible to really come up with a decision as to whether or not the parents are making an ethical choice. But they don't give a shit, and that's what makes me so angry about this episode. The entire crew of the Orville, nobody gives a shit. They can't answer any of these fucking questions on their own. They just don't care. They just decide unilaterally it's completely unethical to reassign this kid's gender. That's totally fucking ruled out. Nobody considers any of that. What is the cultural history of this particular race? What is their fucking racial history? How do they generally reproduce in the fucking first place? None of that is answered. But without any exploration, without any fucking attempt to try to understand where this culture is coming from in the first place, they decide unilaterally what the ethically okay decision is. And that is unbelievably offensive, I think, when you are talking about considering things like this in a Star Trek-like atmosphere. Because Star Trek is not about just judging one fucking culture. It's about trying to understand that culture first. Where do these people come from?
Completely ignoring that they talk about this.
Are you kidding, though? Do you really think the conversation that they had is even worthy of being called a conversation? That's even worthy of being considered actual debate? They come to that decision first. They make that decision first, and then decide that they're right from there. Just so justify.
Clearly, if we were to sit around and if a couple on Earth today were to have a baby, say. And this would be easy to understand in particularly societies that view a male child more favorably than a female child. So
sure.
if you were to look at like say you had a couple of Chinese people and they moved to the United States. They had a child and it was a girl and they were like, no, do over. I want you to make that a boy.
Right.
I think the knee-jerk reaction for everyone would be no.
Right.
No, you can't do that.
Why is that, though? Why is that?
Why?
Because as far as I know, for human reproduction, a male and a female is necessary. It's necessary. Like that's part of the
super science. Yes.
Yeah, that's part of my understanding is that male female come together. That's what produces a kid. Not male male, not female female. It's male female. That's how you get a fucking another life form. That's unique. That's part of how it works for us. I don't know. That's what's frustrating. I don't know if that's how it works for this other race. It matters, though. It matters in a completely practical and pragmatic way. It absolutely fucking matters because maybe if another race, if there's only ever been one fucking female born in for an entire like species, how do you not call that that's a mutation? That's clearly a mutation. And if it is a mutation, then there might actually be significant and serious health risks to that. I don't understand. Like, none of that is fucking addressed, though, by anybody in the Orville, by anybody who represents the Union. And the reason it's not addressed is because they don't give a shit. They don't fucking care. It doesn't matter. Because they're using the sort of gender politics that come from Earth, essentially, is what this is, and applying that to a completely separate fucking species that developed on a completely different fucking planet. It's surprising to me that you're not more upset about this being a libertarian who is generally like, hey, I think the government should have a fucking hands-off approach to people's lives. It's just like a little surprising to me, but yeah, these are absolutely like basic questions that should be answered before passing some kind of moral judgment on the practice of an entire fucking culture.
These are not legitimate concerns with this episode.
These are totally legitimate concerns.
If you took this to any reasonable level, you would throw out every instance that anyone has ever been on a holodeck as an unreasonable way. Like Bride of Chaotica is a trash episode because no one has ever reasonably explained how the holodeck works. Now, I understand
nobody cares. None of that has any. There are no larger ethical concerns being drawn from an episode like Bride of Chaotica. How do you not see that this episode is about the ethics that the Union has developed that are based on the fact that they're all fucking human beings practically, and that all of the ethics that all of the ethical questions have come from the fact that they live on fucking Earth and they're all people first, and to just unilaterally apply that to a completely different race of people, I don't see how you that's absurd. It's ridiculous.
Explain to me how this episode should have worked then.
Well, one, I would have liked to have heard any consideration for what the fucking parents want to do, which was thrown out of that was thrown out of the bus immediately because Seth MacFarlane right away was like, well, I can't give the baby over.
Do the assignment surgery, and then one did.
No. First,
what do you do?
They don't want it to happen. First, both of them are like, we're definitely getting this kid gender reassigned. Both parents are like, yes, let's do that. So the captain at that point is like, no. The captain says no. The doctor says no. The captain says, I can't just give this fucking kid over to this other ship because now I'm complicit in this action. They go to Claire
and they say, I want you to do whatever to the child. And she has to say yes?
No, I'm not saying what any of these characters have to say. I don't really care. The point is that they all say,
well, you're making
they
it
all
about
no,
a
they all
libertarian
immediately say no, including the captain. So there's already, we don't give a shit what the fucking parents want. Fine. And Claire, if she has some sort of moral objection to it, whatever, that's fine. I mean, that's her right to have that. But the captain of the ship is saying, I'm not even going to let your fucking kid off of this ship because I know what you're about to do to it. I know what you're about to do. How do you not see that as kind of questionable? Like as enormously, because now he's saying, I understand what both parents want to have happen to this child. I understand that both parents are of a completely different species than I am and from an entirely different culture. But I am saying, no, the kid that they just have doesn't get to leave my ship because I know that they're going to do this gender reassignment surgery and I am morally opposed to that. That was his fucking decision.
By that point, Bortus had already said he didn't want the assignment.
No, that is not true. That is absolutely not true. And I would encourage you to rewatch the episode.
They sat down at the table.
No,
and guy was there and he's like, I'm taking the kid.
You are wrong.
And then
you are wrong because Bortus first goes to the captain and asks. This is his idea. He requests that ship show up so that they can give the kid over to that ship so that they can do the reassignment surgery on that fucking ship so that they can get it done. And the captain refuses. And then conveniently they show the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Because you're wrong. You're wrong about the sequence of events. And that's what's so frustrating about this episode. He made that decision before both parents wanted the gender reassignment surgery. And the captain said, no, I am not going to let you. Let you give this baby over to this other ship.
Here's how it happened.
You are very wrong.
No, you are completely off base. What happens is Bortus goes and says they both want it. They both want it. Bortus goes, asks Claire,
yeah,
I want you to give my baby a penis.
Yeah.
And she's like, no.
No, whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
And I will make an aside and say, as a libertarian or a person with extremely liberal bend, I would say absolutely a medical professional should be able to deny any person service for anything that isn't medically necessary.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Life-saving. You can't just walk in and say,
I agree. I question her decision making, but it's not anything that she shouldn't have a right to. She's a person.
She's allowed to make decisions.
Exactly. She's allowed to make her own fucking choices. That's fine.
At that point, Bortus goes to the captain and says, make her do it. And he says,
yes,
no, I won't make her do it.
That's correct.
Which is completely within the keeping of how Star Trek works.
I agree.
This exact scenario played out in The Enemy.
Yeah, I agree. None of this is problematic. No, you haven't gotten to the problematic portion of this episode yet.
So Bortus calls the person and says, "Come pick up my kid, and so someone else can put a penis on it." And then by the time they get there, he's changed his mind.
That's wrong.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
That's wrong.
Yes.
That's
you
wrong.
Have to go
because
back
the
and
captain is aware. Because the captain's pissed. He's immediately pissed off, which makes sense that Bortus has decided to call in this other ship. That makes sense. All of that makes sense. They have a conversation with each other in which the captain explicitly says that by letting the baby go to this other ship, by allowing that to happen, he is complicit in this gender reassignment, and he can't do that. He can't, despite the fact that both fucking parents are on board at that point, he doesn't want to let, and then conveniently, and this is what's frustrating about this fucking episode, and this is where the bad writing starts to really rear its head. Conveniently, Bortus watches Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and now there's a legit conflict between the two parents. Removing the captain from the equation and removing the rest of the crew of the Orville from that fucking equation at all. That's part of what is so fucking bad about how this show is written. It immediately takes a shortcut to absolve the captain from his original goddamn position that he didn't want to give this baby over to this ship. Now he doesn't even have to fucking defend that position. Now he doesn't have to put himself in a position where he is debating against the rights of two fucking parents who want something for their child. That's what's so bad about this. It's such an easy out.
He clearly agonizes about the issue with his first officer, and he's like, well, you know.
Are you kidding? Do you really think that was anything other than an almost childish overture toward let's try to entertain the other side of this debate? Do you really feel like that was legitimate, or that was?
There are so many childish overtures in this show. Childish overture is basically like if you went to the second episode, and she. Oh God, what is her name? the sexy security lady.
Oh, whatever her name. I don't know. I was really angry at the episode 3 that I was like, I'm not even gonna fucking learn any names or races.
Yeah. So she walks into what is not 10 forward and says basically, I've been given orders, but they can suck it because it's stupid. We're going to go save the captain.
Well,
and it's like, it's so dumb.
Because everybody's mad at me is why. Everybody's mad at me is the real reason why I decided to change my opinion.
Well, yeah, I didn't think that was great. And so that happens. And you just look at it and you're like, that is the bare minimum. We checked the box. And there's some box checking in this.
Yes,
but
there is.
At the same time, there's a certain, like, the one thing that's funny about Alara's speech is because you expect it to be like this speech, and it's just like, nope, it's over.
Yeah.
And it's just funny because it defies expectations. And the whole thing about the Rudolph, I mean, you have to appreciate on some level that you're watching something that's supposed to be sort of tongue-in-cheek, stupid, funny, campy.
That's yes.
And
all right, I know I got to stop you there because it's also an excuse. That is also an irritating fucking excuse. And really, I guess what part of me what concerns me a little bit about this show is that we're just going to be willing to accept the absolute shit, the absolute fucking bullshit, the bullshit reasoning, and the terrible fucking rhetoric because it's supposed to be kind of funny and kind of tongue-in-cheek too, and we shouldn't really take all of this very seriously. But that is such a cheap cop-out. And I'm not going to give it to this show because people are going to continue to use this show as, well, it's more like Star Trek than Star Trek Discovery because there are so many fucking Star Trek fans who are so goddamn butthurt about everything that they've heard about Discovery, even though they haven't seen one fucking episode of it yet. And I'm not gonna sit here and defend this show and pretend like it's more Star Trek than anything else we've seen in the past just because it gets to have this little cop-out. It gets to have this little, well, it's supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be tongue-in-cheek. So why are you taking it so seriously? It's a love letter to Star Trek, but it fucking misses the boat on what made really good Star Trek episodes so fucking good, which is a sense of, hey, maybe we're not right all the time. And I don't know how I guess I don't see how you don't see that. Like this crew uses every opportunity to say why they're so much better, not only than the Earth is right now, but than every other culture. I assumed when they're flying over that planet and the doctor is like, they've industrialized every square inch of this fucking planet, I don't know how they breathe. I thought of you immediately and thought, wow, that's a pretty fucking goddamn naked argument for a bunch of environmentalists that all feel self-superior, superior to everything, all corporate interests and industrialization and anything that pollutes is bad. And to just shit on an entire fucking race of people that they already have a problem with because of this gender issue as well. This show is so clearly elitist, like left-wing garbage fucking arguments that it surprises the shit out of me a little bit that, especially episode 3, that you didn't like react to it more viscerally than I did. It's so naked. Like, it's so clearly we're all right all the time. All of us are right and so far advanced than everybody else all the time. And these other people are wrong. Always. Like, Palicki's argument, when they're talking, when they're even doing this sad little overture toward, let's try to pretend like we even have the capability of entertaining the other side of this argument with respect to gender reassignment. And Palicki just nonchalantly rants about, well, you have to be able to compare this to a sort of universal ethical code. Like, what are you talking? Like, that's so easily, like, that's just something that is so fucking easily discoverable. Like, that's something that everybody just knows. I mean, well, it's childish.
First of all, they checked the box whether or not you think it was sufficient. I thought actually it was surprising they even had a conversation about maybe we're wrong. So, like, in a way, this is like, you're right about the how do they breathe. You're just like, yeah, it's great,
right?
Okay. But like,
come on, but that's all over this show. That we've evolved past boxing. There hasn't been boxing in like 400 years because I guess the union is so fucking hyper evolved that they can't even appreciate combat sports anymore. Even the second episode, right? Even the second episode. Wow, man, I can't believe people used to keep zoos and like animals were in zoos and it wasn't supposed to be cruel or anything, but it's like, oh my God, what a bunch of dumbasses for having fucking zoos in the first place. Seriously? Seriously?
But Star Trek does that.
No, my dog is fucking captive, and I'm supposed to feel bad about that?
How many times have you heard, we don't use money anymore?
Right.
Oh, we don't.
Right.
We're not motivated by the acquisition of wealth. Thanks, Jean-Luc.
Sure. But everybody knows that greed is bad. Like, everybody gets that. That's fine. That's a vice. But now you're saying that, like, even having any kind of animal, I guess, whatsoever in any sort of captivity is bad. That's how bad this show is. It doesn't actually understand the arguments it's even making. My dog is captive. My fucking cat was a captive. Is that bad? I don't know, because this show... And did you wonder if during episode 3 they made a pretty compelling fucking argument for pro-lifers at the same time? Do you think that is something that Seth MacFarlane intended to make when they're actually on the stand discussing, hey, we probably it's probably ethically wrong for us to do anything that would significantly alter the life of this baby? Wouldn't that fucking apply on a pro-life argument as well? Is abortion outlawed in the fucking union? Because it's been made pretty clear by episode 3 that the parents' rights to decide what or what not to do with the child's life are fucking irrelevant. At this point, yeah, I feel like apparently the union might actually be pro-life. But I bet they didn't fucking think of that. Like, I have no doubt that they didn't consider that portion of the argument. Because you probably shouldn't be able to execute a fucking kid in the womb if it's so goddamn wrong to alter its life once it gets outside the womb, right? Like,
well, I think that you would find that most people would apply that logic today. But the thing is, like,
this is
if you went into like if you go into like the rhetoric that people use to support or oppose, abortion or a pro-life stance, you would naturally come to the point where basically people who think that you should be able to get an abortion up to a certain point or whenever you want, will typically dehumanize the fetus, right? Because we don't want to call them unborn babies,
right?
Because babies are cute,
right?
So we just call it like
a fetus,
the science experiment,
an embryo, whatever.
So you see it rhetorically that if they are these elitist left-wing nut jobs that you think the writers are, they wouldn't even consider that to apply because it's not a baby yet. It's a question mark.
But that's
making my girlfriend
that's
fat.
what I'm saying. That's why it's bad writing. That's why it's really fucking bad writing to fail to consider any of that in these impassioned speeches about whether we can fucking affect the life of a goddamn newborn or not, to not even consider what the implications of the arguments that we're making to support. Well, now the kid's outside the womb, so here's all the arguments we're going to use because the kid's outside the womb, to not consider whether those arguments also apply to a kid that is inside the womb. That's bad writing. It's bad fucking writing. And I bet if we get a goddamn abortion episode of this fucking show, it's going to play out completely fucking differently than this one does. And it's going to use the same goddamn fucking arguments. That's what's so frustrating
really
about.
if we got one of those. I thought it was ballsy when Battlestar Galactica did it. The abortion episode.
Yeah. It's good. It's a good, legit
that
consideration.
Argument was like, yeah, sorry.
See, I just, they already know the right answer. That's what's frustrating. Episodes 1 through 3, they already know the right answer. That's not good Star Trek. That's 2 episodes I can think of in particular of Star Trek Enterprise, which those 2 episodes are my major beef with that entire series, and why I think Archer was just a goddamn madman. But that's where this show misses the boat. They're not legitimately interested in the moral and ethical complexity of any particular situation. They know the answer. That's the difference between this show and the really good episodes of Star Trek. The Orville writers think they actually know what the right answer is.
Once again, I am going to disagree with you, and I'm not going to. It's at this point you're just beating your own horse that you have killed, and I'm sure it's cathartic, but eventually it's just going to turn into a pile of mush.
Yeah,
and we don't want that.
Well, it's true.
I am going to say, I want to talk about the things that I thought that episode in particular were surprisingly adult about.
Okay.
Even if you come from the land of, we've already figured out what the right answer is.
Sure.
And to a certain degree, they've transferred that onto Bortus, who we're supposed to like because he's a bridge crew member, and he's, he was reasonably likable in the first couple episodes. He has no personality, but
yeah,
we're supposed to feel bad for him because basically he doesn't get what he wants, and the kid is gonna have this assignment surgery, and sorry, they play the sad music, and I'm surprised they have so much sad music in this episode.
Yeah.
But at the end, the parents can reconcile, and I was surprised first that they went the direction that you made a good argument, but you still lose.
Okay.
And
yeah,
and that
okay.
reminds me of things like when Picard says it is possible to fail and have done nothing wrong.
Yes.
And I like that. And you do get those TNG episodes that end on that bitter note.
Well, Spock too in that one episode. I think he loses like 2 crewmen or something. He's like, I've done everything according, like a really powerful episode. It's like, I've done everything according to logic, and I've still, like, it still hasn't, just good. Yeah. So sorry to interrupt, but I agree with what you're saying.
And then also, like, Bortus and Cliven have the ability to disagree and to fight and to go head to head. And this is something that we need today. And then at the end of it, like, they can acknowledge that it's a difference of opinion, and whatever the outcome is, we should all be, like, still trying to play the game, to be part of the same society.
Yes.
Well, play the game, I mean the game of life.
Right.
I mean, the whole point of being socialized is so that you learn how to play the game, and that other people want to play the game with you, etc.
I agree. I totally agree. So the idea that the Bortus, I mean, the kid was gender reassigned. He didn't want that to happen. He's still gonna love the kid the same. Both parents are still completely committed to this child and still committed to raising this child in the best possible fucking environment that they can create for that child. Absolutely 100% on board with that.
That is uncharacteristic of preachy bullshit that we see today.
Yeah. Okay.
And kind of like the TV personalities that get online and
that the kid's just fucking doomed. I mean, that they didn't just result to the conclusion that the kid's just doomed.
It's everything. It's the brinksmanship and just that acrimony and like, to be able to step away from that is something we need. It is a really desperately needed ability.
I agree.
Skill for all of us, and I would not expect it in almost any show on television today, and I certainly wouldn't expect it from a show that in the same episode said it's not like having a vagina gives you a lisp.
Yeah.
Depending on how you use it.
Yeah.
And you're just like,
I don't know,
so
man.
Stupid.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. And I appreciate those aspects of this episode. But if this is what fucking passes for, like, legitimate sort of a sort of legit rhetorical approach to issues like this, that's fucking depressing to me. Like, that's extremely and extraordinarily depressing to me. And it's just not worthy of Star Trek. It's not worthy of of being called or compared to anything like Star Trek. It's so fucking basic and it's so fucking childish that I don't know, man. I don't really have any I don't know. If the writing of something like episode 3 is what passes for coherent rhetoric today, based on the kind of political environment that we're in America, that just means that America is, I think, worse than it was before. And maybe that's true. But
I don't think a lot of people would argue that America isn't worse off in several respects than it was.
Certainly, in certain respects. But when it comes to, like, arguing, when it comes to rhetoric, and when it comes to trying to parse out, like, the sort of pragmatic, aspects of one particular argument versus, like, the idealistic or ideological aspects of a particular argument, I don't know. I think we maybe are kind of worse off in that. So I don't know. I mean, I have running water and everything, so that's great. And Amazon.com is awesome. but I do wonder if we're a little bit stupider when it comes to larger ethical concerns presented in an episode like this concerning gender reassignment and all of that. This all felt so completely over fucking bearing. And I don't understand how you can look at an episode that's like, well, you know, everyone should have an opinion on this, and maybe the government should be able to intervene, and screw the rights of the parents, and screw whatever fucking unique aspects there are to a particular race and that race's particular culture. Just forget all of that. Let's not consider any of that. I mean, if that's where we're at when it comes to decisions like this, that's depressing. And that's worse, I think, than it used to be. I
think we're in a different position than most sci-fi. And sci-fi is kind of fun because you can so arguably one of the best ways to kind of see if you know, like a position or an opinion that you have falls apart is to take it to an extreme.
Yeah, true.
And to try to see, you know, where do the wheels fall off? Do they fall off? How do they do it? You know,
sure.
Maybe I can refine my underlying principle, because really you do want to have a coherent.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
I believe that's called reductio ad absurdum, but yes.
Yes. Well, yes, but that also refers to the argumentative practice of other people, and it usually ends up being a form of straw manning, because
sure, but
usually
it is
the person doesn't understand what
and
you're
it's legit
talking
to
about well enough
a point, but yeah.
But the thing is, like, you can take sci-fi and you can divorce it from a lot of the context of you know, the modern day, because I would never think that any TV show would want to touch gender reassignment, particularly today, because it's a mess, right?
Well, it's weird that it's worse today than it was. But I mean, Star Trek, like Riker, right? With that fucking androgynous, right? Like, she was basically kind of a woman and he was kind of wanting to bang her. And, you know, I mean, Jesus Christ, that was 20 years ago. And I feel like we're stupider now than.
Yeah, but if you went back and watched that, I think you'd see that they were definitely a lot more delicate with how that went. And it wasn't a binary in that case.
Yeah.
Moving from A to B. It was, you have A and B, and then you have this entire race of people that's just not playing by A or B.
Yeah.
They're all C.
Yeah.
And C is where they all want to be, and then all of a sudden she wants to be, you know, A, so that she can get
she wants
Rikers.
That dick. You know, she wants
Turns
that
out
penis.
she wants that D.
Well, that's fine.
Oh.
Yeah, she wants that D. Nice job, Tactic Angel. Nice work with the alphabet there.
It was A and B, but we went straight to D.
Nice work.
That's what she was interested in. She was interested in that number 1 D. So, and you kind of get the I mean, you could say the same thing about the episode where that Trill is Pork and Crusher.
Oh, right. Yeah, she wants to do yeah.
And then he dies.
Yeah.
And becomes a she.
Yeah.
And then she's like, I can still make this work.
Yeah.
And Beverly's like, not so much.
Yeah, I'm
like,
not.
You can
not
definitely
totally
tell
into it now, which is fair.
You can tell the sensibility of the times by watching that. I don't think either one of those shows is offensive, even by today's standards.
No.
But they are definitely, I could see where you would argue that the writers were more timid back then, and to that degree they might have seemed less sure about what they thought the right answer was.
Sure.
I think there are probably some examples of things that probably don't work today.
Yeah.
And I think I'd have to go back to the original series and rewatch some of those episodes and think about them. But I mean, this is 3 episodes in. I don't think that Star Trek typically takes this big of a bite of this big of an apple this early, typically. So I was surprised to see it.
Well,
and
yeah, I mean, it is still riding on the coattails of a series that has tackled this throughout. What are we? 5 incarnation, but original, TNG, DS9, Voyager, Enterprise.
Animated.
Yeah, I mean, so it's not like it's coming fucking
Original
nowhere.
animated.
But
yeah, but
I mean, it's certainly drawing on all of the strengths of Star Trek.
Yeah, and it is, and part of the reason why maybe I think it can get away with it is because like we all love Galaxy Quest because it makes fun of
the
things that we love,
the dumb stuff
in a way that portrays love in the same way that we can watch Gamers 2 Darkness Rising and like they completely trash D&D players in that. But you can love it as a person who's played tabletop because it's not with malice.
I agree.
And I'm happy that they're willing to even try. And maybe like maybe my opinion will change on this because maybe they will half-ass 15 episodes of this and that will wear off. But yeah. I mean, it's funny enough for me. It tries hard enough. And for the most part, I don't need a show to answer all the questions for me. I need the show to ask the right questions because really the whole point is that I think about it, not that they tell me how to think. And I don't think that they do tell you how to think in this. I agree that you could probably predict the kind of feminist mantra that you get out of this, and that
it's because it's insane.
Naturally, the smartest person in Bachland society would be a woman,
right?
Whatever,
because she's a writer. She quotes herself to make her own fucking arguments. But yeah. Thanks, Obama. Quote the smartest person I know, myself. Me.
Yeah. But
I don't know. And maybe part of my negative reaction to this show is the idea that I am anticipating the fucking arguments that have already been made that the Orville is more Star Trek than Star Trek Discovery, despite the fact that we haven't seen any episodes of Discovery yet. And I think that is so unbelievably fucking unfair.
And that's kind of where I wanted to go with it.
It fails to recognize the extraordinary weaknesses of a show like the Orville. I would say that episode 3 of the Orville, if it was called Star Trek, I can't tell you how fucking pissed off. Like, I'm pissed off now. Well, if it was actually called Star Trek, I would be goddamn. Well, this is Captain Archer Part 2. Like, this is the kind of insane logic.
This would never have even flown as a Star Trek because of the amount of stupid or just honestly
the
humor
attitude
in
behind it, the complete failure to consider, to legitimately consider the weaknesses in this kind of knee-jerk, I can't believe that we would ever even consider gender reassignment surgery because whatever. Like, the overture toward that is so weak and it's so unfair that it's not representative of like good Star Trek writing.
So I am interested to see. So like this show was marketed to us, the general us, as it was going to be a comedy. It's going to be kind of a, Star Trek spoof, whatever. I think in terms of that, it actually has been reasonably funny. And on top of that, it has been more thoughtful than I expected it to be, which is not saying a ton.
Well, now, I guess that's my problem.
What I hope, because the way that Star Trek Discovery has been marketed, which is a war story in space, that that it happens to be significantly less about laser shooting in space and a lot more about it's fucking anything.
Yeah.
Like just anything.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're not going to get it in the first episode.
No.
Because that's probably going to be a flaming dumpster fire like most first episodes of anything.
Well, if it's in the tradition of pilot episodes of Star Trek, it should be the worst fucking episode, but
but then like then it's going to go straight to bribery streaming service.
Yeah, I know. And that's the real issue with Discovery. The streaming, all of that shit, I am completely on board with. I think that's 100% separate from the quality of the show, but I'm completely on board with, I'm not going to pay fucking $6 a month to watch Star Trek. I'm definitely not going to do that. And I understand that beef. But that beef is often carried over into, well, now the show itself, the actual writing of the show, the actual quality of the show is also fucking terrible. That's insane.
I think we're gonna see, like, isn't it next week anyway?
Yeah, it's tomorrow. Well, tomorrow is the first episode of Discovery. I'm going to watch that over at my Star Trek buddy's house.
It will have been like 3 days in the past then.
She's like mid-20s. And she's my Star Trek friend. And I mean, you could come over too if you wanted to watch the premiere episode of Discovery. If you want, I mean, you know, the invite's been open for a while, and I know you've rejected it multiple times.
I'm still mad that you didn't invite me to the Comic-Con.
I don't understand where you're coming from with any of that.
Won't bother.
But you like the Orville, so it makes sense that I don't understand where that's going.
We'll see.
I don't know. So,
I had low expectations for the Orville. Not stupidly low.
No,
like, I have probably
to address, like,
Star Trek Discovery has less, a less high hurdle to try to get over for me, because there are several things that I know I'm biased against, and it even if it was marginally okay at this point, I'd probably be surprised.
Well, to address your comments regarding the Orville, I too agree. I too am surprised that really any there's been any thoughtfulness behind really any of these episodes so far. What frustrates me is this. I still feel like this violates, for me, one of the primary aspects of what attracts me to Star Trek, which is a legit, almost impartial, mostly impartial, I would say, exploration of ethical issues among different cultures, of the aspects of discovery of different cultures, of what a person's what a superior, what a race is, what a particular being's obligation is to intervening on different cultures, all of that kind of stuff. That's what I love about Star Trek. I feel like the Orville absolutely misses the boat on a lot of those considerations. But the fact that there's any element of that consideration in this show is certainly surprising to me. And God, Jesus Christ, I guess it is worthy of some praise for at least the overtures of thoughtfulness toward these particular issues. I just think the rhetoric is so goddamn fucking flawed and so horribly bad that I don't know. It's a little bit more depressing to me than anything else. And I think to pretend that this exemplifies Star Trek more than something like Star Trek Discovery, at least at this point, prior to any episode of Discovery actually being aired, is irrational and insane and just sort of fanboy bullshit.
We'll see.
We'll see is a reasonable assessment. Yeah.
I mean, there's lots. Okay, like if you're playing the over-under there are reasons to be concerned about Discovery.
Of course there are. There are.
And like usually when I state my concerns about Discovery, they are concerns in the same way that like if you see a movie that's been through 4 rewrites and has 3 different directors,
of course,
and it comes out
legit. I do not debate that. Yeah,
and it comes out 6 months late and in February.
Sure. Of course,
there are lots of reasons why you might think that this is not a good show for a movie.
Totally fair.
And when you see Discovery has been through several of those check marks, then you kind of start to look at it and go,
yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's like there's
absolutely fair.
I mean, I'd like to see someone else drive that car before I take the test drive because I think it might burst into flames.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I'll be interested to see with the Orville if they what direction they go with it. I should say what direction. If we get less poo-poo humor and more situational humor, I would fucking love that.
Yeah, sure. That would be great. I would like a little bit more of a legit. If they're gonna tackle issues like this, I would like it to be a little bit more legit. I would like to see a little bit more of a legit approach rather than, hey, we're right and everybody else is fucking wrong. I mean, I don't know. So, didn't you think it was a little weird when Palicki was like, hey, if they just like killed babies, wouldn't we have a fucking problem with that? And you're like, yeah, but like that's what Sparta did for a while. I mean, do you want to have a fucking fight with them? Do you want to just completely write them off and not do any business with if you're an Athenian at that time and you're like, hey, total sacrificing infants because you don't think they're going to be like the greatest fucking warriors in civilization. If you have a problem with that, you want to just totally cut ties with that fucking civilization and write them off and shit all over them. And I mean, it's bad. It's not what should pass for a legit rhetoric, for what should pass for like legit exploration of the extremely different approaches to life that different cultures have and the ethical implications. And so much of what that alien culture does strikes me as entirely unethical. But I still have to deal with them. I still have to try to consider them on their own terms. I still have to give them the benefit of the doubt, primarily because I don't fucking know everything. As a human being, where you have to actually legit wrestle.
I think you're slowly going insane.
I know, like, do you remember the episode of DS9 where Cisco
just, like,
has to consider, like,
sometime.
Where he has to basically lie to the fucking Romulans to bring them into the war against the. At the end of that episode, I would do exactly what I just did over again. Even knowing that I got an innocent party killed and an innocent crew on the ship that was blown up as a result of his decision making, I would do it again to get the Romulans involved against the war against the fucking Dominion, because that is what we needed to preserve the Alpha Quadrant. That is good writing. That is legit fucking right and wrong. Here's the thing I have to do in order to preserve life. What I'm doing is fucking wrong. What I'm doing is wrong, and it's gotten innocent people killed. But I'm still going to do the same thing because the benefit has been to assist in the preservation of the Alpha Quadrant. That's fucking legit Star Trek writing. That's something that I don't think the Orville is remotely capable of even doing because they're so concerned with, well, I think Jenna Risa is so wrong. You know, they're just, it's shallow. The Orville is shallow, and I think it will always be extraordinarily shallow. And we shouldn't settle for that just because it's a love letter to Star Trek, just because we can get away with humor and all of that. And I don't think we should shit on Star Trek Discovery because it's not called the Orville. I mean, it's just, if episode 3 of the Orville was called Star Trek The Next Generation Part 2, I can't tell you how much more angry I would be about how that episode played out. It's just not, I don't know. It's not in the spirit of Star Trek, because that's what, I don't know, that the conflict is what matters more than the actual solution. The conflict is where so much of this stuff lives and breathes. That's where Star Trek is at its best. The conflict between what the right thing to do is and the wrong thing. And I think the Orville totally misses that. I think the Orville is more about what's the right thing to do. What do we think is the right thing to do? That's the thing that is supposed to happen. It's not about the conflict. That's what's frustrating about it. It's childish.
So I wasn't even talking about that. I was talking about your proclivity to yell for minutes on end into a microphone and say the same thing over and over again.
Well, I am full of the 18-year Glenlivet, so
Orville's not a good show because they don't write well enough.
They don't write well enough. But they get that excuse.
The aliens are...
They're supposed to just be jokey, so they get every excuse. They're allowed to be bad because it's supposed to be funny. They're allowed to fail because of the humor. Fuck that.
I get it. I'm sure there are people out there who think the Brooklyn Nine-Nine's a bad police procedural.
It is funny. It is funny. But at least it's not trying to be anything other than funny. The Orville is cheating because it wants to be considerate, and it wants to believe that it is legitimizing these arguments, that it's giving ample exploration to these arguments, and it's fucking not. And when it fails to do that, the excuse is, well, it's like a parody. It's like supposed to be a joke. It's supposed to be a joke,
wonder
so we don't care.
if Seth MacFarlane went and tried to sell anything to anyone on Fox, it's like, I want to do Star Trek.
Yeah.
If he walked in and he's just like, I want to do Star Trek, we're going to call it something different, but it's going to be Star Trek, straight up.
Yeah.
And they're like, aren't you the funny man?
Yeah.
Okay, there'll be jokes.
Well, that sounds like another excuse to me.
I don't know.
Sounds like another fucking excuse. I don't care.
And I think you'd also be more likely to invite that lawsuit if it wasn't clearly like, Your Honor, clearly this is a parody.
Yeah, well, sure, but still,
and,
that's another.
And
excuse.
obviously, they're dealing with a subject matter that has a not insignificant amount of litigation around it, and certainly that litigation isn't in the deep past. It's
sure.
It's nowish.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know the answer to all those things. I don't think that this is supposed to be straight up Star Trek. I think this is supposed to be Star Trek like a comedy in space. And
that's fair. This is not worthy of Star Trek though. That's I guess maybe that's really my argument. This isn't worthy of Star Trek. It shouldn't be called Star Trek.
It's a hard
and it
thing
honestly
to do,
shouldn't
though.
really
How are
be
you
compared.
supposed to make a show that's supposed to be both funny and super serious?
I agree,
all the time?
But it's not worthy of the spirit of Star Trek. That's my point. Like, this is not, the Orville is not in line with the spirit of Star Trek, which approaches things with a little bit more fucking humility than something like this show does. That's the point that I want to make overall. And that's what's frustrating to me. And that's where I feel it misses the mark more than anywhere else. It's not in the spirit of Star Trek. It may make the same sort of overtures with regard to some orchestral scores and a sense of exploration.
You don't need to go on another.
I know. I'm
rampage.
That's good. That's fine. I appreciate you shutting me down when you need to, because I am a little bit passionate about this. But yeah,
you're just full on madman at this point. The only thing that could possibly explain how you're behaving is that you believe that there is a person somewhere out there and that they are listening to this.
Yeah.
And that they would be convinced if you just said it one more time.
There's that one guy. So let me address that one guy.
No. There will be a follow-on to this episode where Midget Radio talks for 6 hours uninterrupted. Except to drink.
Tactic Angel, who doesn't want to hear that?
I don't want to hear that. I didn't even get through the last X-verse thing because I was like, holy fuck.
Well, there were a lot of comics to talk about, so, you know. I mean,
you talked for like 2 hours.
There's a lot to say. I don't know what to tell you. There's a lot of important things that need to be addressed.
Just the mania. Because it takes longer than that to put the whole thing together.
It does.
And then render it. And I got to line up the comic books.
I don't even do that. Like, it's really bad. Like, I just kind of line them up. But then from there, it's just like, fuck it. I don't, you know.
I got to edit this. And there's weird pause. And then at this point, I start yelling at my dog. I got to take that out.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's a lot to do. But it's worth it. It's worth it. And I have no doubt that most of the United States is benefiting from it. So, you know.
Yep. That's what the view count says.
Clearly.
So I think that has been episode number 32.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
Of the Wednesday Night Gentlemen Multimedia.
Do you feel
Empire
like you have
podcast?
sufficiently expressed your opinion on the Orville? Because I understand. I know I've dominated this a little bit. Far more than I should have.
I don't think that I have, but I don't think that you're going to allow me to say.
I'm happy to. I understand Tactic Angels at 3.5 stars on the Orville for what it is, I guess. Man.
I can find parallels for most of the things that happen in this show within TNG specifically, and I will say TNG because I think TNG at least cerebrally was the high watermark for the series.
Really? You
the
think
one
so?
that was
that's a conversation
the one that,
we should probably have. I don't know.
I mean, as fun as you want to say that the Dominion War is, I think the best episodes of TNG are one-offs, and I think the worst episodes of DS9 are the Dominion War episodes mostly.
I don't know.
And then the last episode particularly.
Well, the last episode, granted, is insane.
Sheer madness.
It is.
I think it was written by Midget Radio.
It is.
No, but no, I'm good. I'm sure that this shit is going to come up again because I think probably next week we'll be talking about STD.
Oh boy, yeah.
And maybe I will drink a lot before that, and maybe we'll just simultaneously shout at each other for
that. Well, that's a good idea. I feel like I have actually killed the 18-year Glenlivet today. And you've just been drinking beer. So yeah. I feel like we need to approach Discovery on more equal footing.
Well, I have shit to do after this, so anyway, yes, that has definitely been episode 32 of the Wednesday Night Gentlemen Multimedia Empire official podcast. Please feel free to give us a like if you enjoyed our video, subscribe on our channel, hit that little bell thing so you see whenever new stuff pops up, you can look at it first and be the first person to say something mean to us. You can find us on Twitter at WNG_MME_OPC, or head on over to Facebook where we're just the Wednesday Night Gentlemen. Thank you everyone for listening. We will see you again on episode number 33 next week. Wednesday Night Gentlemen, etc., etc.
Bye-bye.